be something a little different. Now, as you guys saw at the end of the Pokemon Stadium review, I found some Pokemon cards that were in my box that I've had for some time now. Years. And I figured if we're going to do a month of Pokemon, there's no way in hell I can complete it without talking about one of the other major aspects of my childhood, the Pokemon Trading Card Game.
Sure, there was. You just wanted to cut corners.
Yeah, pretty much. And you guys were gonna probably, ask me to do this stuff anyway, so I figured I'd jump the gun on the situation. Now, just for clarification, no, I'm not talking about the Pokemon Trading Card Game that came out for the Game Boy Color. I think it was.
I think so.
I believe so. No, I'm not talking about that game. I never played that game. I never really had any interest in that because, well, you see, when it came to the Pokemon Trading Card Game, I never really played the game itself. I never learned the basics of the card game because I was really just more interested in playing, just collecting all the cards because, one of the fundamentals of the Pokemon, games on the Game Boy was you got to catch them all. So I pretty much treated the card game with the same, respect. I didn't really care much about the game. I just wanted to collect all the Pokemon and put it in my binder collection. Thing is, though, I pretty much stopped playing the Pokemon Trading Card Game in around 2000.
Right around Gen 2.
Yeah, around Gen 2's introduction. And I recall getting maybe some expansion sets from Generation 2. I do recall owning a Japanese Heracross. But other than that, no. I stopped pretty damn early in the game's life because the game today is still going on strong. There's tournaments all over the place for the game. People are really dedicated to that kind of stuff. To me, I was never really interested in the card game. But pretty much what we're all here for today is we're pretty much...
three of us?
Yeah, all three of us. And we're going to make this quick because...
Five if you want to make a fat joke.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a fat joke on my own because we're not going to be here for very long because the futon can only take so much.
Matt?
All of us, excuse me. I'm pretty sure the combined weight of this, three of us are over 700 pounds. But we're pretty much just going to talk about our personal memories of the card game itself, and I expect you guys to do the same in the comments. If you got any personal memories, personal achievements in your Pokemon Trading Card Game's lifespan, feel free to post it. I like to read that kind of stuff like that. And yeah, I was actually it's funny because I don't remember exactly how I was introduced to the card game. I recall how I was introduced to say other card games like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh. But Pokemon, I'm just going to assume that I was walking into the corner store of my house, which sold Pokemon cards at the time, and I'm going to assume word of mouth just made me curious enough to buy a pack, and then as soon as we were doing middle school, everyone else had Pokemon cards. So at that point, I was already playing the games. Now I have to buy cards too, because it's what everyone else is doing. And honestly, was it 1999? I'm 12, 13. The holographic cards caught my attention a lot. I was like, yeah, I want more of this because I'm a greedy little whore. And I got to go after all those rare Pokemon that everyone wants. I want that Venusaur, I want that Blastoise, and I want that Charizard. And unfortunately, I never really got that. But there was Pokemon cards back in middle school were the equivalent of crack cocaine because you weren't
cocaine, really?
You weren't. Well, I'm talking about in terms of between the 10 to 14-year-olds.
Yeah, but really to the level of addiction?
Well, that and it was pretty much illegal in the school. Oh. You weren't allowed to bring the cards with you. If you were seen with the cards at any point in the school, they'd be confiscated from you. And that was the end of that story. Mm-hmm. So we pretty much, traded in secret behind closed lockers, under our hoods. It was actually kind of a thrill.
You wild child, you.
It's like, hey, pathetic. I got that holographic Charizard.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I've had my share of counterfeits as well, because those were the talk of the town too. I even printed out my own Venusaur.
Asshole!
I was like, it's the new Game Boy edition Venusaur. It's black and white. See, it's legit.
The Pokemon Trading Card Game was announced on television, I believe, and the first set I got was actually the very first set of the game, which came with the Machamp holographic, which I still have in my binder, by the way.
Yeah.
I did sit down and manage to learn the basics of the rules, but then when nobody else bothered with it, I said, you know what? Fuck it. So after a while, it just became have to evolve Pokemon on your team at all the time and just throw them out there with the cards and the flip coin.
Yeah, by the way, if you say your first holographic card was a Machamp, it doesn't fucking count. Everybody has one of those. That's pretty much the rule of thumb when when we were playing card games all over in the school.
After having Johnny completely shit on my childhood, I still managed to get myself addicted along with a few of my friends around the neighborhood. Unfortunately, since we were the only ones we actually trusted with each other, the trading was rather limited, so to speak. In other words, whatever I knew what he had, I knew what Andrew had, I knew what Justin had, and at the time I knew what Carl had. But after that, it was pretty much we were restricted to getting our cards from the packs. There was something all the more sweeter about getting the cards from the packs too. And like what Johnny said about the Venusaur and all that, I managed to get every set of those except for... Actually, I take that back. I did get base set Blastoise, which was the best of the three. But I got like Erica's Venusaur, I got Team Rocket's Charizard, Blaine's Charizard, but I didn't get the... Or, was it Blaine's Charizard? I got every other Charizard except the regular Charizard. And I'm thinking to myself, my luck is not fucking bad. So, but then after a while, like, I think it was mostly because they kept staying on Gen 1 for way too long with the card game. Because by the time Gen 2 came around, I really didn't give a shit anymore. Yeah, we didn't have my friends either, so we just sort of like dropped the cards and then tried the other new game out.
The sets that they had that I recall the most. I recall the base set, I recall the jungle set, I recall the second edition set. There was the fossil sets. And the last set I remember was the Team Rocket set. I think that's where I stopped actually.
I remember now. I stopped at gym leaders.
Yeah. Around the same time.
I actually remember like getting into Pokemon from the anime, really, and then I actually remember I had my own like bits and pieces of the Pokemon cards.
Like
bits and pieces.
No, not literally.
He had the upper corner of Seeking.
I only had the HP level of
Elliot was that poor as a kid.
I only had the HP level of Venusaur.
Elliot was that poor as a kid. Alright, you sent me to Machamp? I got Venusaur's at HP at 90.
I have a fist of Machamp.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, I had some cards, I didn't have a lot. But the reason that I was fascinated with Pokemon the cards were the pictures, really, because I was young, I was into.
There's some great artwork to this day, I think.
I was just interested in the pictures, and I think it was around 2000 where we actually got a tutorial PC game. It was like teaching the basics of like how to play Pokemon and like how to like use the counters and such.
It was this annoying teenage girl.
Yes.
Who said every.
I never got.
Who might as well just have a large neon sign saying "I'm 90s," and she teaches you the basics of the card game. Yeah, I remember that. It was very limited.
But like I never got far in that. I only got up to like the fourth
I actually did go out of my way to win every single championship in that tutorial.
This is the same man who played Shaq Fu.
Yeah, I know, and you were there with me.
Yeah, I know.
The one thing that actually fascinated me about getting that box was that
was the rush of it all.
No, like it came with 3 packs, a little Mewtwo figure, and this oversized Mewtwo card.
What exactly is the point of this ginormous Mewtwo card? You can't play it in games. I read it up. It's illegal in tournaments. I mean, you can't put it in your prize pack. You can't put it in the prize section. Like, I wonder what that card is.
No, like I wonder, like if you put this in the prize card section, would this count as 6?
Yeah, but it would mean that if you did, you would lose the battle if your first Pokemon went out.
Other than that, I recall like the day I pulled out that holographic Kangaskhan from I think it was the base set, or it might have been the fossil set.
Base.
It was the base set. Fun fact: the Metal Gear Solid game that I got right there
has a Kangaskhan in it.
No, I got that by trading my Kangaskhan.
Wow,
so
really?
one of my schoolmates, Kangaskhan, is responsible for introducing me to Metal Gear Solid. And I think I may be the only person in the city that can say that. Of course, we're not the only people here that have memories of Pokemon Trading Card Game.
Who else is here?
I'm pretty sure Ryan from Brain Scratch Commentaries has a few things he would like to say about the Pokemon Trading Card Game. Ryan, would you mind telling the people how exactly you were introduced to the series and your prized possessions, if you have any?
Back in the old days when Pokemon was super huge with pretty much every kid in school, this was around 4th or 5th grade or so, the only 2 things we really played were the Pokemon Trading Card Game as well as the actual Game Boy games. Now, I have a lot of Pokemon cards. I have about 2 binders about yay thick of cards. Most of them are completely worthless. They're just, Mankeys, Caterpies, Pidgeys, what have you. But I have collected a lot of rarer cards over the years. I do know how to play the game, at least as far as the original goes. My cousin taught me, and I in turn taught a couple of my friends, although we really didn't play it all that much. This was mostly just to collect and bragging rights only, so I do have a lot of rare cards, a lot of Japanese ones. And I actually had a few stores that had Japanese imports, so remember, this was before high-speed internet and news got over here insanely quick. We pretty much had to rely on Nintendo Power, whatever cards we could get. So I would have a lot of Japanese cards, such as a lot of the Rainbow Island packs. I believe I have all of them, but not in the original 3-card little foil here. I do have all of them, though. Also have a few of the Japanese ones from Gen 2. This is how we found out about Umbreon, Espeon, etc. incredibly early. A few of the shiny legendary beasts as well. I don't know where my Raikou went. This is the stack of holographic cards alone I have that I don't have particularly, put away. I have fucking 3 of these Mewtwo's. Holographic shiny Ho-Oh. This is a lot. The only other particular non-overly special rare card I have was the original uncensored Misty's Tears, I think that's what it was called. The one basically where Misty's completely topless. I have it somewhere, but I can't seem to find it for whatever reason. I spent about half an hour for it. Ones that have shiny Celebi. Yeah, if only we could have one of those in the game. Let's see, shiny Charizard and... Ooh, this one's particularly special. Japanese holographic shiny Mew. I don't even know where I got half of these. That's not the one you guys want to see, is it? Well, here it is. Original first print holographic Charizard. This was the envy of the playground for everyone back in the day. I only have one, but I don't care. I have one, and you guys don't.
And thank you, Ryan's footage.
Alright, but we've gone long enough with the whole, memoirs of Pokemon Trading Card Game. Long enough. Let's actually talk about the game itself. Hosted by me, John.
Of course.
In all honesty, the Pokemon Trading Card Game is really not that hard to understand and pick up, but that doesn't make me any sort of expert on this kind of stuff. There are a lot of variables when it comes to constructing a winning formula, but I just want to cover the basics. Both players must use their Pokemon to knock the opposing team out and collect the 6 prize cards that are taken from the player's decks at the beginning of the game. You can also win by knocking out all the Pokemon the opponent has on the field at the current moment, or if your opponent runs out of cards from his or her deck. Just about every Pokemon card is structured like this. On the top right is the Pokemon's HP, or its health. The bottom half of the card are the attacks or abilities a Pokemon can use when it's time for action, and the numbers on the right are the amount of damage an attack can possibly do. Although there are some attacks that don't do any kind of damage and just inflict status conditions like sleep or paralysis. The emblems you see on the left of the attack names are energy costs. In order to perform a certain attack, you'll need the right energy amount the attack is asking for. Energy cards are the soul of your deck. Without these, you really can't do anything. Each Pokemon type has their corresponding energy card, although if you see a colorless emblem such as this, you can use any type of energy to meet the requirements of the attack, something I wish I knew back when I attempted to play this game years ago. On the very bottom of the card are the weaknesses and the resistances of the Pokemon card, if it has any to begin with. If a Pokemon is weak to a particular type of attack, it'll suffer more damage in addition to the base damage of the attack. If it's resistant to a specific type, it'll take less damage than the base amount, usually by 30 damage points. The retreat cost is the amount of energy the Pokemon needs to leave the active area and switch out with benched Pokemon. You create a deck consisting of 60 cards, no more, no less, and you're not allowed to have more than 4 copies of a particular card besides your basic energy cards. There are different playstyles that lower the amount of cards needed for a deck, but I think 60 cards is the default limit. Each player begins by drawing 7 cards from their deck to place in their hand, and draw 6 more cards to place in their prize area. Prize cards are always kept face down. At this point, each player must select a basic Pokemon from their hand and place it on the active zone. They can also place any other basic Pokemon in their bench area, where they can use them later and slowly power them up. If the 7 cards you draw have no basic Pokemon available, you have to shuffle your hand back into your deck and draw another 7 cards. You must have a basic Pokemon in your active zone at all times. Once the active and bench Pokemon have been selected, it's time to start the game. At the beginning of each turn, the player draws a card from his or her deck. At this point, the player can do one of many things. They can attach an energy card from their hand, which you can only do once a turn. They can add more Pokemon to their bench from their hand as many times as they like, or they can just straight up evolve one of their basic Pokemon to make it stronger, assuming they have the proper evolution card. If they have the proper energy amount, they can retreat their active Pokemon and switch out with one of their benched Pokemon. They can also play trainer or support cards like potions to heal your Pokemon, or something like Professor Oak or Professor Juniper to refresh your hand. Trainer and support cards can be the equalizer one needs in order to succeed, so make sure you play them when you need them the most. If a Pokemon has a Pokemon ability, they can also activate them at this time. Pokemon abilities are not considered to be attacks, so you can still battle the opposing Pokemon with one of its attacks after using its ability. Once you're done setting up, you can choose to attack the opposing Pokemon, assuming you have the energy to perform the attack, or you can end your turn. Damage done to a Pokemon is represented by damage counters. For instance, if you inflict 40 points of damage to a Pokemon, you place 4 damage counters to represent that. Once enough damage is added up, the Pokemon is knocked out and sent to the the discard pile. If you inflict a status condition on a Pokemon, you turn the card to the proper position to establish what effect it's suffering from. If there's one thing this game loves having you do, it's flipping a coin. You flip a coin to determine just about everything. Who starts the game, certain attacks, Pokemon abilities, healing status conditions, prerequisites for training cards. There are even cards that require you to flip coins multiple times with the result determined on how many heads or tails you landed. I can imagine Two-Face would lose his goddamn mind playing this game. Personally, if I were you, I'd use actual currency for the coin, like a quarter or a 50-cent piece, because the in-game coin, while neat looking, is pretty flimsy, and it gets caught in the weakest of air currents. When you knock an opponent's Pokemon out, you can take one of the 6 prize cards you placed at the beginning of the match. If you can win all of your prize cards, you win the game. If your opponent has no active or benched Pokemon left, you also win the game. And that's about it. Like I said, I just wanted to go over the basic fundamentals and such. From what I can guess, constructing a winning deck is all about how well your cards can perform individually, as well as complementing the deck as a whole. There are a lot of things to consider when making a deck, but that's only if you have any interest in the game to begin with. Whether it's local play, tournaments, or online, the Pokemon Trading Card Game can make for a nice hobby. Since I don't really care about the actual game itself, I won't even begin to attempt to explain how to build a good deck. I'll stick with the handheld games.
So now that we're done with this, can we go back to Yu-Gi-Oh, man?
Saying. Sacrifice. Jinzo. Move a light and a dark. Blackluster Soldier. Envoy the beginning. Attack for game.
I have fucking 3 Ancient Mews. Why do I have so many of these?